Hello everyone and welcome to another video. So before we actually get into the video, I just wanted to give you a warning. This video is going to be absolutely full of bad humour, silliness and utter insanity. Hence why I've hopefully released this on April Fool's Day. If I haven't, then it will just be another case of me not timing stuff very well, just like with the What If new series 20th anniversary special, which was supposed to come out before this but will now have to come out after this. So I'm going to try and do the narration for all of this in one take, so if I end up getting something wrong, that might potentially make the video even funnier. If I end up swearing when I make a mistake, I will try to censor it. Now, two of this special scenarios haven't been written by me. What If the Fourth Doctor Travelled with a Talking Cabbage was written by KnottyOrchid 12, and Jetshot 22 wrote What If the Space Pirates was found in 1978. The other two, What If Planet of the Rhines had been made, and What If Evil Dan had his revenge, are written by me. So please give Knotty and Jetshot all your polite support and constructive feedback in the comments below. And also, yes, just to further add on that warning from earlier, it won't just be the narration or what's being said that might seem a bit silly. It could also be the visuals. Again, it's April Fool's Day. It's supposed to be kind of silly, but if it's not to your taste, then that's completely fine. You can go and watch a more serious What If video if you want instead. So anyway, without further ado, let's get started with What If the Fourth Doctor Travelled with a Talking Cabbage. Hello everyone, and welcome to another video. The year is 1978. Actress Louise Jameson, who played Leela, left the programme and hold on. Hello everyone, and welcome to another video. The year is 1978. When actress Louise Jameson, who played Leela, left the programme, Tom Baker, the Fourth Doctor, wanted to replace her with a talking cabbage. Yes, really. He envisioned his new companion riding around on his shoulder. BBC executives were not very warm to the idea, however. Nothing came of it. But what if things were different? What if, in an alternate universe, Tom Baker got his wish for the companion? What if the Fourth Doctor travelled with a cabbage? Now, in my personal opinion, that is not his opinion, if this cabbage came to be a companion, there's two ideas that need to happen. We need to have an episode that could introduce the cabbage, so probably during Destiny of the Daleks, Doctor could probably come across a vegetable stand hiding from the Daleks where he meets the magic cabbage. Now, who would voice this cabbage? Well, personally, I think this cabbage needs to be voiced by a top-tier comedian, so probably Chris Barry, John Pertwee, or even Rowan Atkinson. Okay, but how long would this magic talking cabbage last? I'm pretty sure he would last for all of season 17 and half of season 18. Wow, okay. I'm pretty sure once Full Circle comes out, anyway. I'm pretty certain Adric would accidentally eat the cabbage after thinking the cabbage was a snack. The Fourth Doctor, I'm sure, would be sad to see his best cabbage friend taken a bite out of by Adric. That's it. Thank you, Knotty, for that interesting scenario. I'd probably have someone like radio DJ Kenny Everett voice the cabbage personally, or better yet, just Tom Baker himself does it in a high-pitched voice. I'd also probably only have the cabbage last for the one season at most, although it's more likely just one episode or one story. Maybe he's recruited by the White Guardian to help the Doctor with the search for the key to timepieces during season 16. But anyway, a talking cabbage would have certainly made for a fascinating and delicious companion. Now, here's Jetshot 22's take on What If the Space Pirates was found in 1978. The absence of 97 episodes from Doctor Who's early years will forever leave a mark on the show's history. While every episode exists in audio form and can still be experienced through animations or reconstructions, the loss of the original visuals unavoidably affects how these episodes are perceived. As a result, some episodes and stories are perhaps less enjoyed by fans than they would be if they had survived. Previous recoveries of missing episodes have caused once lost stories to increase in popularity, The Enemy of the World being the most obvious example of this. So what if the same had happened for another underappreciated story, The Space Pirates? This story has been particularly unfortunate. The sole surviving episode, episode 2, is perhaps the worst of the story. It's the only one that doesn't even have space pirates in it. Also the story has no telesnaps, as John Cura was in declining health and had stopped making them by this time, meaning we have very few visual elements from the missing episodes of this story, which further impacts the viewing experience. If this story had survived, would things be different? The first question is, could the space pirates have survived? Considering almost all of the rest of Season 6 escaped destruction, aside from episodes 1 and 4 of the invasion, it seems likely, and that the space pirates were simply very unlucky with 5 out of 6 episodes lost. Episode 2 has survived because it was originally shot on 35mm film rather than videotape. This original film copy was held by the BBC's film library and thus escaped destruction. Episode 6 of The Wheel in Space survived in the same way. The other episodes, however, were shot on videotape, and so we must find a different way for the complete story to survive. Several Season 6 stories, The Dominators, The Crotons, and The War Games, have been given to the BFI for their archives, while copies of The Mind Robber and The Seeds of Death were discovered by Ian Levine among BBC Enterprise's catalogue at Villa's house. It would not have been impossible for a copy of the Space Pirates to have survived as well in either one of these ways. Initially, this might not seem to make much of a difference, but you would be wrong. In 1985, The Space Pirates would be chosen as the first black and white story to be released on VHS. The number of complete Troughton stories was very small back then, and it was John Nathan Turner's favourite Troughton story, mostly because it was the first time he'd actually worked on Doctor Who as a floor assistant, and he could have very easily influenced the selection. In our timeline, The Seeds of Death ended up being chosen, but it could have been The Space Pirates if that had still existed. It would be the only second Doctor story released on home media during Patrick Troughton's lifetime, and the only 1960s story available until the release of The Daleks in 1989. With no other stories from the period available, fans would have no choice but to watch this story, which they knew very little about. No target novelisation had been released, and those who had seen it in 1969 now only had vague recollections. At this point, something unexpected would happen, as those who watched it would be surprised to discover that the story was actually very good. The regular cast all give excellent performances, as do the guest cast. Appreciation would emerge for the comedic performance of Gordon Gostelow as Milo Clancy and his totally accurate American accent, and the menace of Dudley Foster as Cavan. Viewers would come to see that the serial's particularly effective cliffhangers, Zoe's anger at Jamie's apparent death at the end of episode 2, Cavan's killing of Lieutenant Sorber in episode 4, and the Doctor being overwhelmed by rocket fumes in episode 5, help to maintain the pace and provide memorable moments. The story would be praised for its unusual narrative structure, as the Doctor and companions are much less central to the story than usual, with much of the runtime instead given to secondary cast. The clever use of pre-recorded inserts in the final episode to cover for the regular cast's absence due to extended location filming for the War Games would also be described as impressive and seamlessly done. Over the next few decades, the Space Pirates would gradually work its way up fan rankings. Although it would take time, the story would rise to become the greatest of the Troughton era. Then the 1960s, and by 2014, Doctor Who Magazine's The First 50 Years poll would rightfully declare it the greatest story ever made. Through regular repeats in the 21st century, the story would also gain popularity with the general public, with the Space Pirates gaining the same widespread recognition as the Daleks or the Weeping Angels. The popularity of reruns on BBC Two would be directly cited as one of the main factors behind Doctor Who's revival in 2005. It would also only be a matter of time before the Space Pirates made a return in the series itself. The continuous demands of fans would ensure they were brought back eventually. In 2020, Series 12, we would see the pirates back in force, attacking holiday resorts on a devastated future Earth, or hunting the mysterious fugitive Doctor, played by Joe Martin. The series finale would reveal the Doctor's true nature as a timeless child, one of the space pirates who had been captured by the Time Lords and had their memory erased. A lore development celebrated by fans. In the uncertain times brought about by COVID, this storyline brought comfort to millions worldwide. The serial's legacy will be acknowledged many times over the years in different mediums. It will get a Big Finish spin-off in the vein of Countermeasures or Jago and Lightfoot in the early 2010s, which soon eventually eclipses the Doctor Who audios in popularity, causing those to be discontinued when Big Finish ended their monthly range in 2021, in order to focus solely on the space pirates. The serial would also go on to dramatically influence pop culture at large, with Joss Whedon citing its space western setting as a major influence on Firefly. The serial would also be adapted into other mediums, such as a successful West End musical by Andrew Lloyd Webber, as a play in the style of Shakespeare, verily newfangled solar toasters, performed at the Globe every year. In 2019, to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the original story, the complete serial would be released in cinemas, with a huge premiere at the Cannes Film Festival that year to much acclaim. Most of the 1969 Emmys and Oscars would be retroactively stripped from their original winners and awarded to the Space Pirates, in acknowledgement of its importance. The story would have been screened in over 180 countries, more than any other Doctor Who story, including North Korea and the Vatican, and even in space aboard the International Space Station, the design of which would be rumoured to have been inspired by Beacon Alpha 4. 2024 would see the return of the original story to television with the broadcast of The Space Pirates in colour, an abridged colorization of the story with new music and effects. This would inevitably prove controversial with fans, with complaints about the heavy cuts to the story, Dom Isigri's scenes being particularly affected. Furthermore, the retcon that a minor background character was actually an incarnation of the War Chief proved deeply unpopular. Despite the negative reaction, the broadcast achieved the highest viewing figures of the Christmas season by far, with competitors such as the Gavin and Stacey finale struggling to achieve a fraction of the viewing numbers. This year will see the release of Russell T Davies and Pete McTighe's new spin-off, War Between the Space and the Pirates. Given the uncertain future of the main show, it seems likely that this series will replace it as both the BBC and Disney's new flagship series. Although 92 episodes from the show's early years would remain missing, the prevailing attitude amongst fans would be that the best has thankfully survived. After several years of dwindling support, the search for missing episodes will be officially abandoned in 2013, as nothing could ever be as good as the Space Pirates. Well, that was something. If you wanted a more serious take on this, the Space Pirates could have somehow escaped destruction and been one of the first 1960s stories found in 1978. It is possible that having all 6 episodes of it surviving might cause it to undergo a slight reappraisal, like what happened when The Enemy of the World was found, although I don't think this reappraisal would be quite as drastic as the one Jetshot came up with. Anyway, now for What If Planet of the Ryans was made. Okay, so Planet of the Ryans is something me and my girlfriend came up with. You see, when I was recently rewatching Jodie Whittaker's episodes as part of a new series 20th anniversary special marathon, a running joke developed based around Tosin Cole's Ryan Sinclair. When he was playing Ryan, Cole would put on a rather unconvincing Yorkshire accent, which, since I found out what his actual voice sounded like, has always puzzled me. Like, did Chris Chibnall think that it was impossible for someone with a southern English accent, like Cole has, to live in England's north? which made him ask Cole to put on an accent. I mean, what were they thinking? Anyway, this all ultimately led to us coming up with an idea for an episode, where 13, Yaz, Graham, and Ryan land on a planet inhabited by a whole society of Ryan doppelgangers. Ryan, naturally, fits right in, but the others are found guilty of their non-Ryanness and sentenced to be injected with a Ryanization serum, which turns them all into Ryans. This episode would have allowed Toes and Cole to show us how great his totally authentic northern accent actually was. And if you remember those moments in series 11 and 12 where Ryan is talking to himself, well, this episode would be the ultimate version of that, of course. Hey Ryan, you're looking proper dapper today, Ryan. Thanks, Ryan. So are you, Ryan. Oh, cheers, Ryan, me old chestnut. God, this video is going to get so many dislikes for its silliness, isn't it? Anyway, let's now talk about what if Evil Dan had his revenge. We come to an alternate version of the power of the Doctor. I'm going to call it the power of the Dan. Daniel Lewis has left the Doctor and Yaz after his near-death experience. They say their farewells, or basically none in the Doctor's case, and Dan walks off on his way to spend the night at his parents' house since, you know, his own house got miniaturized and then the Doctor didn't do anything to try and fix it for him. As Dan remembers this, he starts to feel strangely. He starts to feel an intense amount of anger and frustration that he's never felt before. He stops and begins to physically transform into something new. Evil Dan. Yes, that became old like 3 years ago from the time of making this. Evil Dan is born, and now he's going to get his revenge. He's going to make the Doctor pay for what happened to his house. Not just pay for it in the financial sense, no, he's going to ruin everything that she holds dear, just like he feels like she did to him. Robbing a nearby corner shop, he gets an army of soup cans together, all armed with frying pans. He takes a wok pan for himself, and then sets out to recruit all of the Doctor's worst enemies to join his worthy cause. The Daleks, Cybermen, Sontarans, Weeping Angels, Vervoids, Zarbi, Fish People, and Taran Woodbeasts all agree to join him. The Master refuses as he has his own Rasputin-themed plans. So Evil Dan hits him on the head with his wok, and then traps him in a gigantic soup can. Dan tracks the Doctor and Yaz to Unit HQ, and then unleashes his army on them. Units under the leadership of Kate Stewart, Tegan, and Ace are no match for the sheer might of Evil Dan's forces. Then Evil Dan walks in and decides to break Yaz's loyalty and feelings for the Doctor once and for all. He shows Yaz how many people the Doctor has been romantically engaged with. Rose, Susan's grandmother, Astrid, Grace Holloway, Jabe, Kondo, Jim the Fish, and Barry the Badger. Yaz becomes disgusted and delusioned with the Doctor. She eagerly joins Evil Dan's side, realizing that she's just the latest in a long line of for the Doctor. This devastates the Doctor, who pleads with Evil Dan to stop all of this, but his only response is, Don't think I will. Evil Dan then begins to power up and up as his seething rage and sense of betrayal towards the Doctor grows stronger and stronger. He also grows and grows in size. He becomes the ultimate Evil Dan. The ultimate Evil Dan then lets his entire army loose on the whole universe. First, the Earth is destroyed, then Uranus, then everywhere. He shields himself, Yaz, and the Doctor inside a translucent giant frying pan, so the Doctor can see all of the destruction. The ultimate Evil Dan tells her that this is all her fault for not doing anything to fix his house. Then his path of destruction spreads to the multiverse. Every single universe is completely destroyed, and I mean all of them. Everyone. The ultimate Evil Dan then turns to face the fourth wall and breaks through it to destroy this video's